Hey, folks. Welcome to the Beans and Dice Podcast. I'm Carlos.
And I'm William.
And in today's episode, we're going to do our live viewer call-in show.
With me this time.
With William this time. You'll notice that instead of Rob, today we have William joining me. He is my guest host today. And so it's William's first time on the live stream. Not first time with us, though.
Oh, no.
But first time on the live stream. So I want to say thank you, William, for joining us on the Beans and Dice Podcast, folks.
Yeah, thank you for letting me do this. I watched quite a few of them, so
we'll give it a moment and let the folks pile in and begin watching. But we'll start with our topics, right? So for us, for William and I today, we will talk about games that we've played, games that we've acquired. But I really wanted to start off first with the game we just finished playing. Talk a little bit about that while the folks get set up, and then we'll turn on the phone lines. We just played.
You want to start?
Yeah, we just played Shores of Tripoli.
Yep.
So Shores of Tripoli, let me see, we're going to get it up here, get the details for you guys, and I think William can throw up on the screen as well some of the information on Shores of Tripoli. All right, let's get that screen up. There it is, Shores of Tripoli. So in Shores of Tripoli, it's a recent game, 2020 release. It was a Kickstarter game done by Fort Circle Games. I was able to acquire it through Board Game Geek Market, so somebody was getting rid of their copy, and it's a card-driven game.
Yeah.
So it's in the vein of like a Twilight Struggle.
Yes, it definitely made me familiarized with more like Twilight Struggle gameplay mechanics, but much more simple than.
I have to say yes. It's so much more on the simple side of it. At the end of the day, what this game is about. So what is it, right? It's a game where you're playing the side of either Tripolitania or the Americans,
right?
And this is set in early 1800s. So we're talking 19th century. So early 1800s, 1801, I think is where it starts.
Yes,
and
1801 to 1806.
06. It's the first American foreign war ever fought. So first time we went to war against Tripolitania because our merchant shipping was being attacked by pirates. So I guess, there was a thing we had before, and it was the protection of Great Britain. But there was this other thing that happened, I don't know, the revolution? We kind of left.
We kind of said, we don't want to be part of you anymore.
So Britain said, fine then you don't have our protection. So when we lost all that protection, our shipping merchants began being attacked, and America had to go to war to defend its interest overseas.
Right.
We're talking places, this is what kind of was real cool for me to play in this game. We're talking places like Benghazi, right?
Right.
We're talking in Tripoli, right? Everybody heard that song, Shores of Tripoli.
Yeah, it's a Marine Corps hymn.
Right. So it the Tripoli was something I understood or knew about, but I didn't really know about. And I guess for me, one of the pleasant surprises, is how this is something that this is stuff that America's been dealing with since the beginning of America. These foreign wars over there in these regions is not new. This is all like from day one, pretty much.
Yes. This is what America needed in order to establish itself as a superpower, to show the rest of the world that
we can protect our interests overseas.
We can get away from Great Britain and be just as strong as they are. So don't mess with us anymore. It was a political maneuver as well as interest protect our economy.
It's probably one of the biggest challenges for establishing these great United States was this foreign war. So I don't really know much about it, but this game is great because it's giving me a feel for what happened, right? So how do you play the game? In the game, you're going to play one side, either the American side or the Tripoli side. So William played the Tripoli side, I played the American side. And the goal of the game is a little bit different for both sides. The Tripoli player, the Tripolitanian player, William, his goal is to mess with my merchant ships, which gives him gold, or sink my frigates. So at that point, the cost of the war is too high for the United States. Right? The man cost of the frigates and the sailors, and then the gold cost of the merchant ships being attacked. He needs 12 gold to win instantly, or sink 4 frigates.
Which sounds like it's easy, but it wasn't.
Early game is your best chance to do that.
Right.
So as the game gets later and I'm able to build up my forces, it becomes harder for you. The U.S. player, the way they win the game, is by setting off the treaty, right? So the treaty is going to require 4 conditions to be met, which include the Tripoli needs to have no frigates in it, so they have no big frigates, no big warships. The allies of Tripoli need to be at peace, right?
Correct.
So there's no wars going on between the allies of Tripoli. And we have to capture Benghazi and Dur, the cities adjacent, the other cities in Tripoli, or near Tripolitania. And then I can trigger the treaty and win the game.
Correct.
But I have to do that within the 6 turns or 6 rounds of the game to be able to make that happen. Or I can sack Tripoli. If I'm able to sack Tripoli with the Marines, which is, I believe, how it ended up happening. Yeah. There was a sacking of Tripoli by the Marines, right? Because isn't that where...
And then they went and they got the peace treaty they wanted.
Is that how you do it?
Yeah.
You sack them, and then you offer peace.
Yeah, that's exactly how it works.
So those are 2 win conditions for the U.S. player. And the way you do it, right? So the game is divided up into 6 different rounds. And in the 6 rounds of the game, there are 4 turns. And each turn consists of each of us playing 1 card.
Right.
So each round consists of 4 cards being played by each player. And then you move to the next year.
And it's got the same mechanics like Twilight Struggle, where, if you play a card as an event, it goes away.
Yep.
It's done. You can play a card for what it's on there, and some of them don't have events, and so they keep staying around. Or you can discard them to do
basic actions.
The only difference in this is that none of my cards, in Twilight Struggle, where some of my cards that I may have in my hand would benefit you. All of my cards are mine. All yours are. That's it. That's what we get.
And what's great is it's 2 decks of 24 cards each. So unlike a bigger game like Twilight Struggle, you're really only playing with 24 cards. So it's not a lot to memorize, right? No. So it's not a lot to lose, is what I'm saying. You're going to be able to easily figure it out, easily learn your game, your cards, the opponents. So you get better at playing back and forth.
I think we both had copies of several cards too. So there's 24 cards, but I had at least 4 cards, and there were 2 of them were same copies. So and they were all about rating. So it's like, okay, so
how did it make you feel? Our first impressions of the game. How did it make you feel?
We kind of stumbled through the rules a little bit in the game, but I would say we started 1801. I would say by 1803, we're like, oh, okay, I figured it out.
It took 2 rounds.
Yes.
So that's 8 cards being played on each side before we said, I think I got this.
Hey, right. And then I still messed up and lost because I didn't read my cards. But it is a game where you need to play at least twice.
Oh, you have to. I would say twice on each side.
Yeah.
So
I would say twice on each side.
If you play at least once on each side, right? And then the third time, I think it's when it's going to be really competitive. Once on each side, and the third time. Michael's saying there's a crackle in the audio. Let me bring that down a little bit. Let me know if that fixes that. I appreciate your help on the live stream.
Well, I will say, folks, I played some of my cards at the right precise moment, but as many of y'all know, my dice are horrible. I still couldn't sink enough frigates.
That's the funny part is, I know, William, you struggle with dice, and this game does have dice.
Yes.
So please, folks, don't think it's just a card-driven game, and I guess that's different than what you're going to find in Twilight Struggle, because in Twilight Struggle, it really isn't cards. It's all. I'm sorry, no dice. It's all cards.
Right.
No, there are some dice in Twilight Struggle.
Dice is only used for one.
Yeah.
Mechanic. The dice in here are used for rating.
This is dice chucking. There was good old-fashioned dice chucking in the shores of Tripoli.
Yeah. I rolled 12. I rolled almost 18 dice in one roll.
You did 18 dice?
Yeah, in one roll.
And that was because of the special cards you played. I think you played a card that allowed your fort to fire on me.
Yes, it was you attack Tripoli, and I said the guns of Tripoli return fire, and then it was a lot of dice coming back at you. Still didn't do really well, but yeah.
Well, Gray Board Gamer says don't blame the dice.
Oh,
and here's why he's right. Here's why he's correct. He is Gray Board Gamer is correct on this point, and the reason is because when it comes to the dice in this game, there's so many that it allows for a bell curve.
Right. I learned quickly that your cards are not meant to use a dice to use it as a standing point, but you need to mitigate the dice.
Yeah, build up your fleet.
Build up the do it in that form, which I was doing towards the end, which I almost clutched it right there at the end. I had 2 gold coins left to get and 2 frigates to destroy, but I just couldn't pull it off.
I really enjoyed our play of it. I really enjoyed the feel of the history that came through. Like, I really want to go learn about this now. I love the comboing of the cards, right? So they combo in a way that teaches you some of the history involved there. Here, I'm going to let William put some of the pictures up on the screen for y'all. This game hit off. It's got some beautiful notes to it. There's flavor. There's a little bit of luck in there. And there's a lot of strategy in how you play your cards. So this one's coming back to the table. We'll give you guys a deeper review on that. So on that note, I will open up the phone lines because that gives us a chance. Let me get in here and open up the phone lines, and we will put the phone lines on the board. 813-618-7099. That's the phone number. Give us a ring. Let us know what you've been playing, but that's the game we just played, Shores of Tripoli by Fort Circle Games. What have you been playing, William? What have you been up to?
Just this past weekend, I actually met up with Rob and Dan over at Your Turn Cafe, and they were playing Honey Buzz. I sat there and watched because they were in the middle of the game. Looks very interesting. Lot going on the board, but the game pieces look great. Obviously, he had the deluxe version there, but even without that, it caught my eye. I would probably play it if I got there early enough. Then I would sat down to play the game. After that, we did play a game that I own, and that is I'm going to butcher this. How would you pronounce that? Probably.
Here, pull it up on the screen. I listen. I don't know how to pronounce it. Listen. English is not my first language.
Dan would know it for sure. But we played this one. Viavi.
I think it's Italian or maybe Latin.
It's Latin.
It's Latin.
It's Rome. It's Latin.
Okay. Tell me about the game.
So this is an area control, card-driven resource management game. It's got quite a few mechanics into it. The basic premise of the game is everyone's playing as a Roman senator or consul, someone of a high official person in Rome, and you guys all are working for Rome, but for your own goals. So the person who has the most influence at the end of 12 rounds, or when the game end is triggered by completing 3 Madatum cards or objectives, as you want to call them, ends. That doesn't mean you're gonna win. You just ended it. So you better hope you have enough influence over your opponents.
Who makes this game?
It's self-published, actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I found this out while watching, one night late during my holiday break off from work, and I saw a video for it, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna pick it up. About me, I love all the games that are Roman style games. I will say about this game though, it has got pretty big production value. Double layer player boards, so everything
kind of like Scythe with inserted boards.
Yeah, it's inserted boards for your cubes, for your
pull
money.
up some of those pictures. I want to see them.
So yeah, this is the main player board. A couple of sets of cards. You have some officer cards that come up. You have influence cards that come up depending on a certain round, and then you have deception cards, which that played a big role, probably around, I would say, the second turn of the game, especially because I did something to everybody and they didn't really like me at the end at one point in time. I made everybody discard all their cards. So, you have to either start off moving around the board, conquering cities. You build
board
roads.
Looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks really great. And what you see here is what you get, exactly what you see right there. The little discs
are they all wood tokens?
They're all wood tokens.
Oh man.
Yeah, right here, these are where you put markers down for building a road. These are for the cities you conquer. The big pawn pieces are actually symbolizing you, and you just go around and you conquer cities. Each city that you hold at the end of the game is worth 1 influence point. The roads are only worth 1 dinar per turn.
Dan says pronunciation is simple. You say V and then you say A. VA.
VA?
VA.
Yeah, well,
We got it. Hey, look at us. We're cultured now.
what do you want?
Thanks, Dan.
You would think the two guys who can speak Latino language would know Latin.
It's too far flung for me. We Puerto Ricans. All right. What'd you think? What was it? How'd it go?
Well, first off, I would say that I won by only 1 point against Rob, and that was only because I had the right cards at the right time. But everyone had a different strategy going through. Dan, he jumped to 10 influence really fast. Emmy was playing, and she was just trying to build all over the board. Rob was controlling where he was building, and I was kind of spread out in 2 different areas. So, it made some really good decisions. And who on those deception cards, it's really take that mechanics. Like, who am I going to give this to? Who's my biggest target? You are. I'm going to give it to you, and that's how I won the game. I gave it to Rob, and he lost 1 city, just right off the bat. And then I just like, all right, so I'm gonna end the game right now, and I ended the game right there.
It says it's a strategic and competitive area control board game set during the rise of the Roman Empire. I like how the way you've described with the deception cards, everyone's on the side of Rome, but everyone has their own agenda.
Exactly.
And that was so true historically. And William and I, we tend to get our nerd on when it comes to the history stuff.
Well, one of the interesting mechanics of it is those public objective cards. So if there's always 2 extra, there's always 2 more than the amount of players. So we had 4, so there's 6 out there. But everyone gets dealt 2 personal ones. The public ones you can complete, anyone can complete. The private ones you have on your own side of the board, someone might inadvertently complete it for you, and you can turn it in. That's the big deal.
Well, because you're all on the same side.
Right. So there was a moment where I actually almost, I think it was Emmy almost was able to complete one by having someone else do it, but she couldn't do it. But she was trying to push in that direction, but it didn't work out in that favor. But yeah, if you can push, mitigate, you say, I'm going to go this way, make it so hard that someone doesn't want to come this way and try to conquer the cities I have, they're going to go that way, which I need anyway, and you can do an objective for me. So
No, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I know you've been showing it to me, and we have not had the opportunity to play it together. But I'm glad you got it to the table.
I think they all want to try to give it another shot again.
All right,
try something different.
Well, let me talk about a game that I played while we wait. Folks, the phone line, I know Robert called me out last time. It's just one single line all by itself. 813-618-7099. Tell us what you're playing. Tell us what you got going on. Help us. Give us a shout. Talk to us. Tell us what you got going on. Any events coming up, right? Anything that the folks should know about in the Tampa Bay area that's coming up game-wise? That would be great. A great board gamer, that's Dan. He said, good game. I would like a mitigation mechanic to combat the deception cards. So I guess the deception cards were pretty powerful.
They are, but you can only play one for free, and then every one after that, you actually have to lose influence. So I guess that might be somewhat of a mechanic, but.
All right, well, here's the game I played. Pull it up on the BGGs there. We'll share it with the people. This one here is, let me get my screen up. Hey, look, folks, it's me. Look, it's me. Ha. Shadows in the Forest. So this game was brought to my attention on this show. One of the first shows where Patrick called in and told me about this. Yes, it's like 80s. Let me get your screen up so the folks can see it. What year is that game?
1985?
Yeah.
Wait.
So Shadows in the Forest is a...
When was he born?
Dude, my kids, none of them were even a twinkle in my eye at that point.
When were you born?
Shadows in the Forest is... We played it camping, and that's what made it really cool. So in Shadows in the Forest, you're going to have this little lantern that comes in the game, and that's one player takes on the role of the lantern, right? So the lantern is going to move on designated spaces on the board. And the player is going to roll a die. It's a roll to move, and they're going to roll the die and move that many spaces in different directions on different pathways. That lantern's going to move around these cardboard trees as it's moving its way on the pathways, right? The cardboard trees are going to cause shadows. So you can see these perfectly like lines of shadows being made by the trees, right? the other players work together, so multiple players together, work to hide what they call shadowlings, little tiny creatures that hide in the shadows. And the goal of the game is to move the shadowlings. They all have to start separate. The goal of the game is to get them all together in one spot without being caught by the light. So the monster player with the clamp lantern, or the player with the lantern, is going to be running around trying to move his lantern so that he can get these little guys to show in the light. If he does, he freezes them. If he freezes all of the shadowlings, he or she wins the game.
Oh, wow.
Our job, the opponent's jobs, is to move them around into these little trees and hiding in the shadows until we can get them all together into one little area, and we win the game. We can unfreeze shadowlings, but we have to start our turn adjacent to a shadowling that's been frozen. On the beginning of the next that turn, it's unfrozen. So the tough part is a shadowling can never move across light. So as the lantern moves around the little areas of the trees, these like rays of light are going to be moving around the board, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
And
right
you
here.
can't cross over the light. So you have to kind of move around the light in the shadows. I mean, it's hard. It was not easy. It was hard. It was definitely not easy. It was hard.
Who was the monster?
My youngest son played the monster first, so because it was his game, he wanted to be the monster first. He loved it. We had a blast camping with this game while playing the game in the dark. The little lantern that it just gave a evocative feel, and we played with grown-ups and kids, and it was a hit. It felt like playing tag, like actual live tag. Like, or Manhunt. You ever play Manhunt as a kid?
Yeah.
It feels like Manhunt. It feels like a board game version of Manhunt is what it felt like. Like my anxieties were up. Like, oh no, if he moves 2 spaces that way, he's gonna see my shadowling, and I'm busted. Right? So it's a great game. Shadows in the Forest is the game. I recommend it. Recommend it. If you got kids, that thing is just great. What else you got? What else have you played?
I haven't played, but I did pick up the new Aliens game from Gale Force 9.
Give me the name. Such a long name.
Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core.
Another Glorious Day in the Core.
Gale Force 9.
Yep.
I was a little bit disappointed with Gale Force 9 and their shipping procedures, but short part of the story, I never got it all. I actually had to go pick up the base game from my local game shop. So I ended up getting 2 copies of one expansion, a copy of the 3rd expansion, all the miniatures, but no base game.
How does that work?
I have no idea. You know, I tried to call them and say, hey, where's my base game? And I never got a straight answer. So I just picked up the base game in my local game shop.
So now you got the full set.
So now I have the full set. I started painting some of the terrain that came with.
Was that Armada? Is that where you picked it up?
Yeah, I picked up.
Yeah, because Armada just put in the chat. They got the name right.
Yeah, I had to go pick it up from Armada.
We got you, bud.
Yeah, I called him up. I was like, "Look, man, I'm done. I want my base game. You got it?" And he said, "Yep." I came down there, picked it up. I think they only had like 2 or 3 copies left. So, but apparently it's been a hit online.
I think Tony Aguilar, one of the guys in our game group out of like North Florida, like Tallahassee, I think it is. He was doing the streaming of it the other night. They were playing it.
Yeah. So I want to get on the table. I know you would be interested in it. It is a co-op game with the expansions that I have. Someone can play the Alien Queen if you want, but it's mainly a cooperative game. Some people are not interested in the mechanics of it, but
is it a dungeon crawl? What is it?
Well, I mean, it's a dungeon crawl in the sense that you are going through a map. You are going through, facilities within, the planet. All the it's like you're in the movies. But main thing about it is that your endurance deck is not only your deck to shoot and kill aliens, but it's also represents supplies. As you burn through the deck, when you don't have any more of the deck, you're dead.
That's the timer of the game.
Yeah.
Is the endurance deck.
The timer
represents resources,
your ability to fire, and everything. So when you burn through, every time you fire your weapon, you actually have to discard cards from the deck.
Dan Graybeard Gamer says he's got dibs on the queen. Chaos reigns.
Yeah, I read some of those hive cards. They are pretty chaotic.
The models, though, I saw an unboxing. I watched an unboxing the other day, and they showed the sprues, right? Because everyone's expecting this to be a board game.
Yeah.
Who produces this game?
It was
the publisher?
Gale Force 9.
Gale Force 9.
The same people that did
Tanks.
Dune and Tanks.
I think they even own Flames of War now, if I'm right.
Yes, Flames of War was where that I actually got this from. So they I don't know if they produced it physically, but yeah.
But a lot of people were surprised of how hard these models are to assemble.
Right, which is why I paid to have them assembled by Gale Force 9. Because I already read it online. They specifically stated on there, it's like these might be a little difficult, and it gave all the information out. So I was pretty much happy with them up until that moment. But me and you who put models together, put Blood Bowl models and everything else, I wouldn't see how difficult they really truly would be. I think all the Marine models were almost snap-on, but you still should use glue.
Dan's got me laughing.
Why?
Making fun of my Taco Bell cup.
You just got nothing else better to say? Why don't you call you?
That's my spot. Yeah, call and tell me what's going on at the shop. You know, I'm going to see Dan soon this weekend. I'm going to stop by Saturday. My son's got to do volunteer hours in Florida.
Okay.
He's in high school. He's a senior. He's doing volunteer hours, and I figured a great place to volunteer would be something that does something good for the community, like a library of board games, attached to a cafe.
Yeah.
But you know what that does?
Well, he does a lot for his
Gives me an excuse to go to the game cafe and kind of hang out,
Yeah, but he does a lot for the community out there too.
He does. It's a beautiful shop out there in Zephyr Hills, Florida. If you folks haven't found it, it's your turn. Board game cafe, a board game cafe in Zephyr Hills, Florida. Look it up. It's
Even if you don't go to play, just go to eat.
The food's good. It's definitely good.
It broke my diet.
Yep. So I'll see him this weekend. But folks, phone line is open, 813-618-7099. Tell us what you've played. Otherwise, I'm just going to talk about what I've been doing. We'll keep it going.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, we camping, right? We did the camping trip. Cockroach Poker.
Oh, yes.
Cockroach Poker. This goes a lot of places with me. Cockroach Poker is it's a
bluffing game.
It's a bluffing game. It's kind of like a BS game. If you're playing BS with cards, it's a bluffing game. You're going to deal out the whole deck to everybody at the table. The goal of the game is going to be to get one player to have 4 of the same type of critter in front of them. Mm-hmm. Once they have 4 of the same type of critter, they lose. And everyone else wins. That's the cool part about Cockroach Poker, which is why it goes around with me so many places, is that Cockroach Poker is not a game about having a winner. It's a game about having one loser, and it just makes it easier to teach. Because even the folks that I was teaching over there in Lake City, Florida, doing the camping, they were able to pick it up quickly because they're working together, right? We're all kind of working together to try to find one person lose. You're going to take a card from your hand, and you're going to pass it to another player. And you're going to give that player a name of one of the 8 critters in this game. And so I could say to Will, this card is a toad, Will. And without looking at it, Will, you have to decide if you're going to call me on my bluff there. Am I lying to you? Oh, I'm sorry, Dan. I was just talking too much. Let's try that again, sir.
He's like,
my bad.
Nice.
I was engrossed in Cockroach Poker. Let me turn on my ringer. Let's try that again. We got a caller, but I missed it.
He's not going to call you. He's going to say no.
No, he can't. No, give us a call.
No.
So I pass you the card, right? And then you got to decide if I'm lying to you or not.
Pay attention.
So I'm paying attention to it this time. I got it in my hands. So if I'm lying, if you think I'm lying to you, you can call me on it.
Uh-huh.
And you can say, no, Carlos, it's not a toad. And then you flip it and you reveal it. If you were right, if you caught me lying to you, right, then I take the card back, place it in front of me face up. So now I got one toad in front of me. But if you were wrong and I wasn't lying to you, it goes face up in front of you. Mm-hmm. Right? The other option you have is to pass that challenge. So instead of calling me on my challenge, you can say, you know what, Carlos, I'm going to look at your card and then I'm going to give it to somebody else. And then you get to play that same challenge game with somebody else. They get to call you up. We got a call coming in.
Probably.
Let's see. Hello, caller. State your name. Where you calling from?
Dan, Board Game Cafe, Zephyr Hills.
First time caller.
Yeah, it's
long time listener.
You got to turn the ringer on for a call-in show. I just wanted you to give you that pro tip.
You tell him.
It's usually I got Rob here helping me out with all that. So
no, blame me.
It's
No.
This time I got Roberto.
Yeah, I'm Roberto today.
How are you, Dan? What you got going on, Dan? Talk to me about the Board Game Cafe in Zephyr Hills. What's going on?
Oh, getting a whole bunch of new games in. That's what I've been doing all day is sleeving. Unlike Rob doesn't believe that's necessary, but when you own a Board Game Cafe, it is.
There are many things that I have to decide on, base our friendship on, and I have to accept that we disagree on that. Rob and I cannot not sleeve.
I see Will already talked about the game we played. It is a good game. The only thing I struggled with was the inability to mitigate those take that cards. Those can be pretty powerful.
Right, and I think that's why they only limit them. You have to pay for them extra as you go on.
How many do you start with?
Just 2.
Hey Dan, let me ask you on that, because when William showed that game to me, it gave me feels of Endeavor, right? So kind of like a Euro mechanics historical game. Did that come across at all for you? I was kind of hoping to get those kind of feels.
No, it was more of a like Endeavor. Even though you go into different areas, it's not really area control, because in Endeavor, when you attack someone combat, it's pretty costly, because you have to use just 3 of your people just to do one attack on somebody. So that kind of mitigates people from rampaging across the board. In this, you can simply play a card and you can just take a city.
Oh, okay. One card takes a city.
Yeah, it can be that bad.
So combat is not as costly as Endeavor. This is more combat heavy then.
Yeah, and the attempt to mitigate it with the paying of influence, I thought in the beginning that would be a steep cost, but as we played the game and things went on and you were able to take over cities and things, it was quite easy in the end game, or the second half of the game, to gain your influence back. Almost everybody finished the game with full influence. It wasn't really that hard to gain it back when you lost it.
Okay, so it doesn't have that Cold War feel of Twilight Imperium, where you can do combat, but it's going to cost you, it's going to put you down a bit, and it's going to take a little while to get back. This one just it may not be as good for the Euro gamer. I was hoping it'd be something that the Euro gamers would enjoy.
I did really enjoy it, though. It was I'd definitely play it again, and that's just the only major flaw that I saw. It doesn't break the game or anything, but you just have to be aware that you're going to have moments come up where you're just going to get slapped with something that's going to completely upend everything you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, Rob did do that to Dan. He took your city right away.
Yeah, he took the very first city that I got in the very next turn. He had a card that wiped it off, and I struggled to do anything for quite a while because I didn't have a port anymore. And yeah, it was pretty detrimental to my first half of the game before I could build back up to do anything. By then, I couldn't build any roads because everybody had taken them all.
Yeah, he messed them up pretty bad.
How'd you end up in the points ladder?
I was going to say, even with that, I still was only, I think, 4 or 5 points behind the leader. So even with getting beat down, it was still an enjoyable experience. It wasn't like I was sitting there with my arms crossed grumpy the whole time. It was fun trying to figure out what to do.
Yeah, good. I think if the would have went one more round, Rob would have won for sure, and I think Dan would have been second if it would have went one more round.
Dan, what do you think about the production of it? Just the pictures alone I saw, the production looks good.
No, there's nothing bad to say about that. The art and the theme and just the way that the board's set up and the components actually evokes the feeling for the time period. It works really well.
Very good. What games have you been playing outside of the one you've shared with Will? Anything new for you?
Well, that was the last one I did, but since I made this big chunk this big purchase here in the past few days, and I got a bunch of new Kickstarters, and I have a whole bunch of things looking at me right now that I want to try and play.
Kickstarter's coming. What? I think Bloodborne that delivered.
No, it is delivering. I haven't received my truckload yet, but
Yeah, exactly.
it'll be
It's a
coming
truckload.
soon.
Back it up.
Though I did get Tainted Grail, so definitely want to play that.
How many boxes is that, by the way? I just gotta ask.
I just did the base game, even though you really don't need. I guess you could get all the expansions, but just looking through the base game, because it's like an episodic game. You play through episodes in the story, and I think with just what came with the base game and the stretch goal, it has like 80 episodes or something like that.
Well, see, last week we talked about, when Rob was here, we talked about newbie mistakes in gaming, and one of the things that came up from Nick Oben was expansions, right? So I want to get your thoughts on that. Being the owner of a cafe, right? So these games you're not buying just for you anymore. You're buying to share with the world. What are your thoughts on having to have all the expansions, knowing that it's just going to be it's something that you're going to loan out?
The expansions, well,
How often are people getting into your expansions?
in the beginning, not much. In the first, like 6 months, not really that much at all. But now that we're getting a lot more people here that are less of the casual gamers, although we still get a lot of those. We're getting a lot more people that know games well and ask me where they can see the BGG list and everything. And I've had people specifically come here to play games from the premium library because we had expansions that are out of print. They wanted to play them, so I'm just getting a lot more of it now.
Oh, that's the way to do it.
I didn't expect that. I struggle getting expansions to the table. I'm glad to hear that people are digging into them.
Yeah, I had a group come in and stay here for like 10 hours. They were playing second edition Runebound because I have all the old expansions for that. They were just playing through them all, having a great time.
Wow.
Where can people find out more about Your Turn and what you have going on?
YourTurnCafe.com. You can go on Facebook. Your Turn Cafe Zephyr Hills. Follow us on Facebook. That's where we put all our events and things up. We're getting ready to put up our new events calendar. A lot more board games. They're going to be board game clinics where people can come in. We'll have it set up. We'll teach them how to play it. I have a couple of people that have recently moved to the area that came in that gave me the information that they're more than happy to come in and teach games to people. So we'll be able to set up multiple things every week in the near future. And I know we're also going to be doing some Blood Bowl stuff here with you, and hopefully another local one too. I know you got the big one coming up in March, so we got to get on the calendar.
Yeah, Dan brought it up. I was going to bring it up later, but I'm going to host my first official Blood Bowl tournament. So I'm going to work with what's called the NAF. It's a worldwide organization of Blood Bowl players to host a tournament of. My hope is to do Blood Bowl 7s, which is the lighter, faster version of Blood Bowl. Plays in an hour, and I'm already setting up to have custom dice. So it's going to be a Beans and Dice tournament. There'll be custom dice with the Beans and Dice logo on it.
Oh, boy.
We're going to have prizes and trophies. We're going to have a wooden spoon to the worst player. That they get extra prizes and extra stuff to the player that does the worst.
Do I need to ask why it's a wooden spoon?
It's a halfling thing. They're cooks,
Sure.
It's not that kind of spoon, William. So Dan, thank you for being open to hosting that for me. So we will have more details coming out soon.
Wooden spoons.
Yeah, we're also excited that in the not too distant future we're going to be actually expanding. We purchased the building and we're going to be opening the wall up between the unit next to us because the axe throwing place is moving a couple buildings down. So we're going to expand Your Turn into another 2,000 square feet. So we'll have plenty more room for things like that in the future.
Well, that's news to us.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you an achievement for that.
Yeah. Congratulations.
The shop is already. The cafe I thought was plenty roomy, so it's going to be great because I think more room is better.
No, you can always use more room for more games.
He's out of room.
Definitely. Plus, we wanted we definitely want to do more with the community. Like you said, we're trying to do more out here with the arts and different organizations. So that'll give us the room to do a lot more stuff that's community-based too.
I'm glad to hear it. Thank you so much for calling in, man. I really do appreciate it. I know you're always in there watching. I see you. I'm just glad you called. Thanks for sharing. Always call in. Tell us what you got going on at the shop, because I'm sure I just like talking about games. So yeah, to call.
No, absolutely.
I'll see you this
You
weekend.
guys have a good one.
Take care, Dan.
Bye.
It took the other person, the other bean, to get on here and tell you, huh?
Oh, there you go. See, you know what? Hey, you know what that does though?
What?
That opens up our phone line, our one phone line. It's open. It's open and ready for you. 813-618-7099. Give us a call. Tell us what you got going on, what games you're playing, what events you're going to be going to. But yeah, speaking of Blood Bowl, right? So I'm going to be hosting my first Blood Bowl tournament, but I'm going to be going to my first Blood Bowl tournament.
Well, let's take a step back.
Whoa.
Where are you going to host a game at?
Oh, your turn.
Okay, so you're going to host at your turn.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'll be hosting a tournament there, but I got some games. I got some folks coming in tomorrow. Barry's gonna come on tomorrow. We're gonna do some practicing, and we do have a call. Let's check this out. Hey, caller, state your name. Where are you calling from?
Hey, guess who? It's Rob.
It's the rice to my bean.
No, Roberto is here today.
I had to call and defend myself. I heard my name come up a couple of times.
Oh yeah, horrible with sleeves. Makes you a horrible human being. I think that was part of it.
Yep, absolutely.
And then evil and mean
people.
to Dan. Those are the accusations. How do you plead?
Yeah.
I mean, he did.
Yeah, I was more concerned about the second one. Yeah, but don't let them brainwash you on the sleeving issue. I mean, sleeves are bad. It's just that simple. So play your game.
Microplastics.
Sleeves are bad. Yep.
Hey, what'd you think
But,
of Via?
Via, yeah, I was going to say that in the Roads of Rome, I agree with Dan. There definitely are some nasty cards, the intrigue cards in that game. But you got to know, if you don't know going in, after you play it once, you got to know that you're gonna dish out some punishment and you're gonna get some punishment back. And in defense of myself, at the beginning of the game there, when I played the card on the Dan, there's a handful of cards in there that allow you just to outright take over an opponent's city, and you don't even have to be near it. You don't have to be around it. And Dan, right off the beginning of the game, had gone out on a little island where he was pretty much untouchable, and he had built a little, I forget what it's called, one of the gold producing, or actually a basilica. Yeah, he built a little basilica out there. And so he was feeling pretty good that he was going to own this little island and have this little basilica. So I had to smack him with that right off the bat. It's just, just luck that I got that card in my opening hand, but I was able to play that card that just said, take over an opponent's city anywhere on the board. So I was able to do that. And then one of the cool things about it is with the basilicas, you build them in a country region on the board, and there's multiple cities that can be conquered in each of the countries, and everybody who owns a city within that country where the basilica is built gains that advantage. So the little island he was on, there was 2 cities on the little island, and he was planning to take both of them and kind of lock it down. And for the most part, as far as player versus player combat, there really isn't any at all other than these intrigue cards. You can't at all, if I remember, go in and just attack somebody and take over what they've got. All of your fighting and attacking is against the AI, the NPCs, the non-playing characters, and you're just kind of conquering these little cities as you go along. But once somebody takes them, the only way that I know of from the game, again, from my one playthrough, is to play one of these intrigue cards. And there's a couple of them in the whole deck that allow you just to kind of take over where somebody's at. So, again, long story short, he was thinking he was going to lock down this little island, but I got in and got a piece. And so I let him go in and do the work and build the basilica. And then I let him take the other city that was on the island. So he and I split the rewards each round. So that wasn't so bad. But yeah, it was definitely kind of a punch in the face right off the bat. But
well, and I guess the way you did it matters to me more, right? So was it something where you had this card in your hand and you're watching him do his thing, and the whole time you're waiting a few turns and planning on it, or was it just like a sudden whim?
I'm going to say in Rob's defense,
it was the first turn of the game.
Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
so
it was the very
quick.
first turn of the game.
So it wasn't like a planned
very
evil
first turn.
move.
Yeah, Rob. I don't think Rob would have done it unless. But Dan built that basilica. Is like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, otherwise I was going to wait until later and see when strategically I could take somebody's, city that would be, strategically better for my empire. But actually I was player number 2. Dan was player number 1. So on the first turn of the game, again, he plops down on this island. He builds a basilica real quick. And like I say, I think he was feeling pretty good. And then player number 2 comes up my very first turn. I played that card. It's like, oh no, we're going to flip that one over to me. And then again, he was able to move on. I wasn't actually physically present on the island, so I couldn't kind of try to move and take the other city that was on the island. He was already there on the island. That's how he had taken the first city. So I played this card. It kind of flipped his city to me. And then again, knowing full well he was going to move over to the other city and that we would share those benefits for the rest of the game. But it was just one of those things. It just kind of worked out that way. And strategically, it was a good idea. But it definitely handcuffed him a little bit there for the first probably third of the game. Starting a step behind. So, but it was a fun game. I'll mirror the comments from before from both Dan and Will that it was better than I thought. And I know Will had brought it over to the studio a couple of times and was wanting to play it. And he was kind of telling us about it. And I'll be completely honest, the description, I was like, oh, okay, well, it sounds just like another war game, another battle game. And, it sounds okay. But when we played it over at Your Turn last Saturday, I was impressed. I'm looking forward to playing it again. It was a really good game.
Good. I was hoping so. I know I wanted to play with more than just me and William. Not just a 2-player game.
Plays up to 5.
Yeah.
Right. Because that would be like playing Endeavor 2-player. Just don't. You can do it, but it's not the best way to do it. So I didn't have a chance to play it with Will, but now that I've heard you guys play it and how well it went, yep.
Yeah, the three of us should definitely play, and we played at Your Turn with, it was me, Dan, Will, and then my daughter, the 15-year-old Emmy, and she played, and she held her own. I think she may have finished 3rd or 4th in the game, but she actually said that she enjoyed it, which kind of surprised me. She hasn't played much, if any, kind of battle games. It is a little
Euro-y. Teenage girl. Yeah. That just don't sound like the type of game she would be playing.
Yeah, but she said it was fun and that she would play it again. So we'll definitely play the three of us, or maybe even throw Emmy back in there, the 4 of us. And it's quick to pick up. It's not real difficult. As Will pointed out, I think it was just 3 or 4 pages of rules for the whole thing. And there's a couple of tricky things, just a couple of things that you kind of have to understand the order of operations and the way things work as far as trying to take over cities and cities going hostile. But once you get just some of those basic mechanics down, it's pretty straightforward. And I would say we played it, was it about an hour, you think, Will? Or
even for a learning game, yeah, a little over an hour. Not much, though.
What was the cost?
Maybe a little over an hour, yeah.
How much that game cost?
I don't tell.
Oh, okay. I mean, like, the folks might want to, like, okay, is it like in the Arnak range of like $50? Is it like in the, Twilight Imperium range of like $120?
In between.
Somewhere in between there. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's over 50, but less than 100. That $75 range.
I picked it for about 75 with tax.
Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, and it was an impulse. But
the production looks great.
The cards were like
the dual layer mats, right, Rob? Dual layer.
Yep. Right.
The forts were all wooden forts.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
The cards,
it's a pretty decent production.
The cards were like really thick, like I could
thick with 2 C's, thick,
like
thick.
Yeah.
They were actually double layered cards. I pointed out to Will when we were looking at them. He handed them to me. He said, "Feel these cards," and I felt them, and they got a nice linen finish. But when you looked along the edge of the card, you could see a seam all the way around the card, and every one of the decks was that way. I checked through the decks, and so it looks like it was a double card stock. I'm not sure how they glued them together or fixed them, but I mean, they were solid. They weren't, didn't feel flimsy or like they were going to come apart or anything. But that's the first time I've really seen a card stock like that. So I'll have to look into that a little bit and find out
what that was. That might be a card that never needs sleeving.
I should just
could be. And back to our other point, sleeves are bad.
Any games you've been playing, Rob, outside of this?
Make it a t-shirt.
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize all the time. I see you got about 10 minutes left in the show, so I don't want to take up too much time. But I did want to hit on
you and our one other caller, one other listener.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Well, that's all right. There's somebody else may want to get through before it's done. But just real quick, 2 other games that I was able to play Saturday over at Your Turn. I spent most of the day there with my 2 oldest kids, and then Will met us up there, and then Dan was able to find some free time on Saturday. His wife was running the cafe most of the time we were there, so he could get in a couple of games. But one that Will played after we played the Roads of Rome was It's a Wonderful World. And I know, Carlos, you've played that once. We learned it from Dan. Actually, we played his copy at the Escape Winter. Yep,
pre-COVID, when we used to like meet up and play games together.
Conventions, what are those? Yeah, gaming conventions. So, but I think we all had a good time. It was actually both of my kids, if I remember, played. Arby, my 17-year-old, and then Emmy, my 15-year-old, and then Will and Dan played. You played with us, didn't you, Will?
Who makes that?
Yes,
Who's the producer of that game? Is it Renegade?
It's Le Boîte de Jeu.
Le Boîte de Jeu, that's what it
made
was.
The Tokyo game that we played. Yep.
Yeah, the Daimyo game.
Oh, okay.
Daimyo, that was it. Yep, sorry. Yeah. So same company out of France, and again, that was a good game. It was one that I won't say that it was at the top of my list to play again, but it is such a simple, light game. I forgot how quick and easy and light it was, and we were teaching it to both of my kids and to Will when we played it. But I'd say, within like a round of that game, the game's only 4 rounds long. But it's a card drafting. You're taking cards and drafting a hand, and then passing every other round. It switches from either to your left or to your right. I think it's 8 cards that you're drafting, and then each of the cards is multi-use. You can either, when you get them, you can put them into a construction area where you're trying to get cubes of the right colors. You're producing cubes to put on them to quote unquote construct the card, or to build the feature to put it into your empire. When you get it into your empire, it starts adding to your production to produce other cubes. So it's my favorite, of course.
I was waiting to hear it.
Into cubes.
He keeps talking about cards, but all I remember was like buckets of cubes in that game.
Yeah,
There were literally bowls on the board for cubes. I'm like, oh, that's a lot of cubes.
Yeah, maybe because of those cute little plastic bowls. But I think we all enjoyed that. I think my kids both said that they liked it. I would say they even slightly impressed my son Arby. He's kind of hard to impress with games sometimes, but he's like, yeah, I liked it. It was a good game. So
was it because he won?
We all had a good time.
I mean, he not only did he win, he trounced us.
Oh, did he again?
Oh yeah.
He
won big.
us
so he always enjoys it when he can kill us. Yeah,
that was a murder.
So
I'm sorry, it was bad. It was so bad. We all went back. It's like, there's no way mathematically you got that many points. And we went back. It's like,
you audited him?
Yeah. And we're like,
we had to go back and recount it because he beat us by like 30. We were like in the 50s and he was in the 80s or something. So yeah, he beat us pretty handily. The other 3 of us, I think, finished pretty close to each other. The other 4 of us, I guess, finished pretty close to each other. It was, but I think we all enjoyed that one. Yeah, I think Will said he liked it too. Again, it wasn't. I don't think it's the top of any of our lists. It's not going to jump into my top 10 of all time, but it's definitely a game that I would play pretty much any time. If
I think for me, the reason
it
just didn't hit off as as much as the way other folks who described it. It feels it's so abstract, right? It's such an abstraction.
Yeah.
The doing of the stuff is fun. Like, I enjoy engine builders because I feel like I'm doing stuff, but I really enjoy engine builders that can tie the theme to it better. And I don't think that one did. I don't think that one really was able to connect theme to mechanics.
What I think, I mean, the game it's fun. I think I consider more like a filler game, but not so much so because it does take a while to set it up with all the cards and everything, but it feels disconnected from the other players. You're only worried about what's going on in your tableau. Or I only worried about what was going on mine, and Emmy was sitting next to me, and only hers. And then, Dan, that's it. I didn't
because of the drafting piece.
I didn't worry about what Rob and Arby was doing because they were on the side table. So it felt like I was just like focusing on mine, but people are going to say, oh, well, it's like Terraform Mars. It's like, no, because everyone manipulates the board in front of you.
Yeah, there's a shared space that we're manipulating together.
Right.
So, I mean, I really couldn't see what he was doing across the board. I was like, he's building a lot of blue stuff over there. Maybe I should stop him from building all the blue stuff. No, and then that's how he just destroyed us on points. But
the only ones you can affect are the people on each side of you. But
Dan says to look at the cards closely. Lots of satire and jokes on there. Maybe that's what I missed. I didn't take the time to read the fluff on the cards, so I'll have to do that next time.
You just like to just jump in and just like, you know what? That's it.
I got no chill. What else did you play, Rob?
The other one I got a chance to play, and actually Will, we started this one before Will got there, so he watched this a little bit before we played via. But it was Honey Buzz, which is a new game that's just come out here. I want to say maybe within the last 2 months ago. It's just started showing up, and it's been hitting a lot of the interwebs. I've been seeing it kind of all over the place online. I've been seeing it people doing a lot of reviews on it lately, and it's all been positive buzz about the game. Everything I've been hearing is
get out.
had been good. But I saw that on Dan's shelf over at the cafe, and so I asked him. As soon as I walked in, we were just kind of standing and chatting in front of his shelves, and then I looked down and I saw that one kind of jumped out at me there, and I was like, "Oh, Honey Buzz!" I was like, "I've been hearing a lot about that game," and I asked him if he had played it, and he said, "Yeah." Yeah, he said he played it the one time, and so I mean the production value on this one is through the roof. The little wooden bees that they give you to use as your worker bees that you place out. It's a worker placement and a resource collection and a little bit of a hand management game. And you're building a little comb, a honeycomb in front of you. And the way you build it, the way you add pieces to it, you send out your worker bees to collect different tiles. And then as you bring them in, you're kind of playing a little puzzle game in front of you, putting the little tiles together. And depending on the way that you build the comb, different areas of your honeycomb build or make different kinds of honey, different types of honey, depending on the flowers and stuff that you took the pollen from. And so you're collecting those resources on your comb to then trade them in at certain points. You can take a market action to trade them in to fulfill orders from different little woodland creatures who are trying to fulfill orders for different types of honey, different combinations of honey. And it was really fun. Dan said, that he had played it the one time. Another one that the rules were fairly light. It was just a couple of pages. He's like, we can sit down. I can probably remind myself of the rules. It'd been a little while since he played it. But I'd say we were up and running probably in 10 or 15 minutes. And that was another game. I think all three games we played that night all were around an hour each. That one may have been a little longer. Again, we were kind of learning it. It was me and my oldest two kids, and then Dan was teaching us. But there's little bees that you send out into the woodlands to collect the different kinds of pollen. And this is the first I've ever seen in a board game. You've got little wooden bees that you use to go onto the worker placement section. But again, there's a little smaller board where you can move around a smaller board to collect different types of pollen or from different types of flowers. And the one bee of each color that you use down there, it's a wooden worker bee just like the others, but it's covered in felt. So it's like furry. And it was like, grabbing that piece for the first time. It was like, oh, this is cool. I've never seen
a fuzzy
board
meeple
game with little fuzzy wooden meeples, little fuzzy pieces. So that was really cool. But there
seems to be a lot of different textures in this game, because I'm looking at the pictures that William's scrolling through. I see what looks like little droplets of some kind of a syrup looking thing.
They're squishies,
what is
little
that?
Squishies. The two of the types of rubber nectars.
Yeah, the rubber nectars. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those are the different types of nectar. I think it's actually it's like 4 or 5 different types of nectar.
Yeah, because they all have different shapes and colors. They look kind of gummy-like.
Some of them are hard plastic, right? Some of them are soft, rubbery. I forget, there was another one. There was a different texture altogether.
I'm looking at the meeples, right? The actual bee meeples. Is it just me, or is that a whole laser cut to represent the lines?
Oh, it is.
So they were able to cut that tiny of a hole inside those tiny meeples. I picked it up. That's
first thing I did is I held it up to the light to see if it shined all the way through, and I pointed that out to everybody. I said, "Wow, they laser cut little. It's actually 4 little lines in the head of the bee that are just lasered out. The little tiny lines.
Yeah, the tail to represent like the striping of a bee.
The abdomen.
Yeah, so laser cutting on these meeples is getting pretty legit.
I think these board. I think these board game companies are realizing we need to up the production quality in some of these games. And this is something that doesn't really cost too much to do, just cut holes in something.
I don't know, man. You look how tiny those holes are. That takes a tiny little laser.
Not with today's technology.
Those are precision cut, yeah.
No, that looks great.
And then they also have Bakelite tiles. When you're moving your little bee on the little sideboard there, it's little Bakelite tiles that you're picking up and then placing in your honeycomb. I was wondering that myself. I don't remember if I asked him.
Dan owns it, so.
Yeah, he can write it off as a business expense.
Exactly. I think he said it was about $60 or $70 if I remember, but
okay, that's not terrible.
It's pretty accurate. So it's not super. I don't know if there's a different version or not, to be honest. Oh, actually, there is. I'm sorry. He mentioned that because when we opened the box, there were cardboard chits for a lot of the pieces. And then he mentioned that he had the Kickstarter exclusive bits. And so all the nice little bits we were playing with were Kickstarter. So that would be definitely more.
Makes more sense.
Yeah. Yep.
The tiles are nectar. Right. Rubber pieces are the honey. That's what Dan is saying in the chat room. And then Nick says, yo.
Gotcha. Hey, Nick. Yeah.
All right, well that
cool.
Okay,
but,
so Rob, is it a kids game? Because I'm looking at it, it's so cutesy. Is it a kids game? That's why I've never even looked at this thing.
Not really. Yeah, I would say not really. I mean, a kid could play it, but there are multiple mechanics going on. So to really be effective at all, or really to get it at all, you're having to do the puzzle of building your honeycomb, building it in a certain way so that you produce the right types of nectar and honey to then cash in to get the, to collect the points. So you're really, and Dan mentioned this to us before we started, that it's really a game that makes you think 2 or 3 or 4 steps down the line. You really have a lot of planning in this game. And I would definitely agree after my first play, I'd like to play it again now that I know how it plays. And I made one big mistake in building my comb that actually none of us realized wasn't going to work. But if you play your pieces out right, sometimes when you collect the right piece, you can pop it in and do a whole bunch of actions at once. And I was trying to go for that combo, but I built it wrong, and I actually locked myself out of being able to do, I think it was 6 actions at the end of the game, because the way I built it around didn't meet up right, and I couldn't drop that one piece to complete several different sections. And so, again, a kid could play it, a younger kid, but they certainly wouldn't be competitive. It's a game you definitely requires a little bit of thought, and it's a little brain burning.
To me, it was just the art styling, the view of it. Every time I saw it, I thought, okay, this looks like a kid type family game. Probably not right up my alley. Yeah. I got all boys at my house. They're not, but what you're telling me is it's a cutesy game, a cutesy, strategic game. So not so tactical, but strategic. Dan posted on here, $59 for that version, $39 for the standard version. That's a pretty good price.
Okay. That is.
Wait,
That's
how
not
have
bad.
we gotten to a place where like $59 for a board game is a pretty good price?
That's different than 10 years ago.
Pretty good price for all those bits.
I guess before $30 was a good price, but
it's because most people are used to still buying the mass market games.
No, I wouldn't be competitive at it. I think Nick was asking about that. I like to have fun and role play my games, so I'd probably just sit there and suck on a honey pot or something. I don't know. Well, Rob, thanks for sharing, man. Glad to hear you calling in. Thanks for jumping in to save us, because it's tough doing this when you don't get calls. I got 15 other topics that I never got to.
But that just saves it for next time.
Oh, you're talking about games. Don't complain.
I know. It's why I love doing this. I might have to start extending this to a 2-hour show.
Oh, really?
Let's do a marathon.
All right, guys.
Okay.
I'll let you go, but I'll plan to be back next Thursday. So sorry I missed you tonight, but I'll be back next week.
We will. Thanks, Rob. Have a good night.
Get me out of here, man.
Thanks, guys. Night.
I hang up on him. Oh, I hung up first. Look at that. Oh, well, we got another caller right at the end of the show. You still good? We keep this going?
I'll go it. Try again.
Hey, caller, state your name. Where you calling from?
Hey, it's Barry calling from Tampa.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, Barry. Thank you for calling in, buddy. How you doing?
Good.
Man.
Tell me what you got going on game-wise.
So, game-wise, we have Wednesday night, we played Halapalagos with the expansion for the first time, and that was a lot of fun.
I was wondering how to pronounce that.
What?
Whatever he said.
He's a librarian. Yeah. He reads better than I do.
Halapalagos.
Pet. Okay, good. Yay. I think, Barry, you told me a little bit about this one. What's the premise?
The premise is that you're stranded on a island, and there's a hurricane coming, and you have to build a raft to escape before the hurricane comes. So you have people going, and you have to collect enough food and water every day so you don't starve. So you have some people going to get water, you have some people getting food, some people going into the forest to get wood to build a raft. And the expansion added roles, so everyone had a role. And like the first game I played with the role, I was the child. So the child didn't have to have space on the raft, but he was limited. He could only get 2 food, 2 water, or 2 wood a day because of his small hand.
Did you say this is a competitive game or a cooperative game?
It is cooperative. The tagline for the game is it's cooperative until it's not.
Uh-oh.
It's like Hunger Games.
So,
We're going to work together until we're the last 2, and then we're not.
Like betrayal in the house.
yes, because at the end of the round, if you do not have enough food, 1 food and 1 water for everyone, you then have to vote someone off the island, and that's when it really gets interesting.
So there's
And then
player
you'll be
elimination?
like, yes, but the goal is to try to get everyone off the island, but that doesn't always happen. Sometimes you get down to it and it's like, all right, it looks like there's only going to be 2 of us. So you either start voting or someone that goes, well, I've got the gun with a bullet in it, so I'm going to shoot Will so that I can get off the island.
Wow.
So it's a really fun game.
Now, if I shoot Will, do I get resources to use for, getting off this island?
Well,
You get
what
150
would
pounds of
happen
meat.
is you get all the item cards that he had.
Wow.
Plus now it's
I
one
vote
less
for Will.
person that you have to, and now it's one less person you have to feed or give water to.
Which makes it easier
And
for the
you
folks that
never-
are left. That's a terrible
Yes.
premise of
And
a
you ne-
game.
I'm
And you never know quite when it's going to end because you have 6 rounds guaranteed, but you take the hurricane card and you mix it into the last 6 weather cards. So anywhere from round 7 to round 12 is when the game can end.
So there's anxiety building up about we need to get this raft built, but so-and-so is not pulling their weight, so maybe we just put them out of their
And
misery
in order to escape,
so we don't have to feed
and
them.
in order to escape, and in order to escape, you have to have enough food and water for the day that you're going and for the next day when you're on the raft. So you have to be able to get enough for essentially 2 days to escape. We ended up getting all 5 players to escape, but we were lucky because the hurricane didn't hit till the last day. If it had hit earlier, not all of us would have survived.
So no friendships were lost in your play of it because nobody had to get put out of their misery.
Yes, but the week before when we played with just the base game, there was a couple times people got shot or voted off the island.
Barry, thanks for calling in and sharing on that one. I really appreciate it, man. That's different.
No problem.
That sounds like
I
a
look
easy
forward
way to
to-
lose friends.
And I also look forward to trying my first Kickstarter in a long time with you tomorrow.
It reminds me of what's the name of it?
Scope Stalingrad.
And God, what's that movie I'm thinking of?
Enemy at the Gate.
That's instantly what I thought of, like a German sniper, Soviet sniper.
Vasily Zaitsev?
Right.
Vasily
If you
Zaitsev is
check
what
your
he's talking about.
messenger, I sent you a trailer for the game that pretty much explains exactly how to play it in like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I think you're bringing it over tomorrow.
So yeah, I'm going to bring that with my Blood Bowl stuff tomorrow.
I'll have pictures and I'll share about it on the next cast, how it went and what we thought. Thanks for calling in, Barry, man. Have a good night.
All right. You too. Bye.
Hey, we got a call coming in. Hey, caller, state your name and where you're calling from.
This is Daniel the Paladin
And this is Alex the Rogue.
from Christian Adventure Gamer from Warsaw, Indiana.
Oh.
Yeah. So, folks, Daniel is the purveyor of Christian Adventure Gaming on YouTube. And I found Daniel on YouTube myself and started subscribing and watching his channel. And right as I was getting going with mine, and then he reciprocated because I was commenting on his. So he reciprocated and joined on mine.
He saw me in the early days. Oh, no.
Yeah. So thank you for calling, both of you. Wow, I can't believe we've got both of you on today.
Yeah, it's a little bit past her bedtime, but I told her she could join me in the call.
What's the time zone difference between Tampa, Florida?
I don't think there is.
It's the same. We're on Eastern.
Oh, we're all Eastern. Okay.
You must have failed geography.
Listen, English is not my first language. What's going on up there?
Not much. We've been playing some games. Just got done with a review for a Kickstarter game.
Okay, what game was it?
It's called Bamboo Bash, and so that's going to be going live soon on Kickstarter. It's by a company called Imperial Publishing, which I'm not sure is a sister company of Mayday Games, so I can't say that for sure. But it's very similar to some of the other games that Mayday Games have produced in the past. So like Talk Woodsman or Click Clack Lumberjack or Bling Bling Gemstone. But it's unique in its own way.
Bamboo Bash. Pull it up so we can pull it up on the screen. Let me know when you have it.
Yeah, it's a small game. Looks like it. Yeah.
Here, I'll pull it up on the screen for y'all folks.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's a small box.
The game is that you have a panda paw that you're trying to knock off only the bark from the bamboo stalk.
It's one of these dexterity games, actual using your hands and moving pieces. I never got to play like Tech. Was it the Lumberjack one?
Yep, Click Clack Lumberjack.
Yeah, Click Clack Lumberjack. I haven't had the opportunity to play that.
Yep, and so those are really great family games. Like I actually use those in therapy. I don't know if you knew this. I'm a therapist.
No, this makes sense. It's something that you can. Okay, so I'll say it, right? I'll just throw it out there. That's how I got introduced to board games when I was younger and started therapy. You know, a lot of what the therapist did was play games. So we played games and we talked a lot.
Oh, I thought you were saying about therapy is where you got aggression, just knock this thing out.
Well, William needs that. So if you got any tips for dealing with aggression, this is Will, aka No Chill Will. But we're not going to give him anything to chop anything down with. But no, you're right. This is a great way to just to build a common thing with someone, and then be able to build a relationship around that once you have that common thing.
Yeah.
All right.
And these kinds of games actually used to work on aggression. You know, if you hit it too hard, the kid might become distraught when they knock like the center core pieces off, which are negative points. And so then it's working backwards. Like, okay, so this is what happened. So
am I looking at that right? Like the circular piece that I'm looking at. So it's almost like a cylinder, and then it's got like little pieces that clip around the perimeter of the cylinder. Is that right?
Right. That's right.
And that's like the bark of the bamboo. And you're trying to knock the bark off without knocking the whole thing down.
Right.
That's
and
easy.
Without knocking the panda off either.
Well, with my sausage fingers, I should be able to do it.
Yeah, I've seen you. No.
Who won?
The other game we've been playing a lot of is Valor and Villainy.
Valor and Villainy.
Yep.
Pull that one up, William. Let me take a peek at that. Tell me about Valor and Villainy.
So that one is a one versus many game. So you have one player playing Mordak, the evil sorcerer who has killed the king and wants to take over the kingdom. And you have the other players, they're heroes, obviously, but they have starting abilities, I guess you'd say. And throughout the game, they're finding new weapons, new armor. They're able to gain XP to gain more actions or get +1 tokens to add to their dice roll. So there's a lot of dice chucking in the game. Very beautiful artwork.
Is it like a board, like a dungeon crawler board? I mean, what am I looking at?
You have, let me think. I think like 16 tiles, depending on the number of players in the game. And the players start with like 5 flipped over. And so they have to go and they do what's called scouting, and they flip over these tiles, and depending on what they find.
Valor and Villainy, you said?
Valor and Villainy. They spawn the treasures and monsters.
I found minions.
And how do I oppose you, right? So if you're Mordak, I heard you say Mordak?
Yep, Mordak.
If we are the good guys and you're Mordak, how do we fight each other? What's the mechanisms there for combat or conflict?
Yeah. So there's actually a tracker. It's called the Procession of Horrors. And so you have 6 days, which Mordak isn't even on the board. And so all the heroes will have their turn. Then the villain has his turn, in which at the end of his turn, he controls all the monsters, which they're called minions in the game. He controls all of them. And then the procession moves to the next day. Certain things might happen on the procession board. And then if the heroes find all 3 shrines, they can spawn Mordak early. And then there comes the final battle, which the heroes are up against Mordak, or vice versa. Or if Mordak can get to the 6th day, then the next day after, he spawns, and now Mordak is extremely powerful.
So the longer Mordak is able to stay hidden behind his minions, the more power he's building. But if we can find him sooner, then we can catch him while he's weaker and then beat him down from there.
Yep.
So it's kind of a race game. I like that.
Yep.
William's pulled it up here. Let me see the info on that. William, scroll up a little bit.
Well, I only found this. I don't know if it's the main game or
The
not.
Minions of Mordak. It's a 2020 release. Skybound Games.
Yep.
I don't. How do you have time for so many of these scenario-driven campaign games? I watch you guys, and it feels like
They make time.
I think it's because I have all boys. Is it easier to play these games when you have a daughter?
Not necessarily. Like, I have to really dedicate time to play it. So, like, when we did our first playthrough, I actually have a game room with my game topper set up on top of the table. And so we just left the game set up for, like, 3 nights in a row as we tried to learn the game. Like, we were still playing the same game for 3 nights.
Just hacking away at it a little bit at a time.
Yeah. Yep. And then I was able to go to a friend's house, take it over there, and we played it. And then I actually had some friends over last weekend. We played it again.
See, because I feel you get through so many different fantasy style dungeon crawl or campaign-ish games, at least scenario-type games, way more than I can get through. I want to play them, but I feel like I always get maybe one session in, and then Swords and Sorcery. Williams give me mean looks right now on that one. That's his game. We get like maybe one session in, but then we could just never get it back to the table again.
You lose interest. I know what it is. It's just
A new shiny comes up.
yeah. You have that. Oh, squirrel!
It's something new. I gotta have it.
And especially fantasy. Like I'm looking forward to the new Descent that's coming out.
And then something else will come out. You got the new Descent coming out and Hero Quest.
Any D&D getting played over there?
I actually run Pathfinder every other Friday at a local game shop. Where obviously I'm
He's dedicated,
the game
bro.
master.
Wow.
I feel so. We're not worthy. Achievement to you.
Paid to do that, so dedication, money in my pocket.
Right. I got.
We're just me and Carlos are just lazy.
What's that?
Me and him are lazy. That's what it is. To be honest, we're lazy.
Lack of opportunity.
That's It's. I mean, like I bought a whole bunch of D&D books and scenarios and stuff because I wanted to play with my kids. I just haven't had the opportunity. I got a 13-year-old boy who is willing but not like fully interested. Right? He'll do it if I tell him. I got a 17-year-old son who just blows me off. He's a jock. All he wants to do is play baseball and lift weights. I don't know where he came from. And then my 9-year-old. But I feel like my 9-year-old's the one that wants to play the most, but he's so young. It's so much work for me to get him to play any games because it's always me teaching, always me controlling rules, not sitting back. So I don't know if it's different because my buddy Rob, who's my co-host Rob, he's got a daughter, she's 15, and she's always willing to play games. Like she's instigating gameplay. So I'm wondering if having a daughter kind of like I'm starting wondering if that's a difference. My buddy Patrick talks about his daughter, who's always willing to play games. Have you felt, what's the situation at home for you? I know you have how many kids are there?
So I have Alex, she's 15, then I have a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a close to 6-month-old. Alex sometimes wants to play, sometimes I feel like I got to bribe her to play. But if there's a game that she really likes, she's wanting to play it, like that Valor and Villainy. She really likes it. So she's like, oh, yeah, let's play it. She has like a stack of games in her room that we need to go through and unbox or review or something. Getting her to play her own games. Like we have Sherlock Holmes consulting, or she does, should I say. She has consulting detectives. Like
15-year-old teenage daughter with her own shelf of shame.
She's starting early.
Yeah, she's starting early, man.
Yeah.
Alex, you can do like I do. Just make a shelf out of it and use it for wallpaper decoration behind you. Don't let it bother you.
We actually use indie boxes for wall art.
Yes.
If you can count.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you guys are continuing to get games in together, and it sounds like you've got a future game group coming. So God's blessed you all. Well, I'm hoping, I'm hoping to get my 9-year-old more involved. He might be my gamer.
Yeah,
I'm hoping.
Hopefully.
I was thinking, having as many kids as I did, I'd just create my own game group was my goal, but that didn't seem to work out like I thought.
Yeah.
All right, what's going on with your show? What's the next event that the folks can look forward to? Tell them where they can find more info about what you got going on.
Yeah, so actually this weekend my wife is out of town with the younglings. So my plan is to live stream some painting, some board game plays, trying to just get some content out there, like shove it out there while I have the opportunity.
All right, I'll be looking forward to it this weekend. I'll be looking for anything you got going on, and as always, the call-in show. Please continue to call. This is what I love doing. Is this piece talking to other people about what's going on game-wise. Alex, thanks for having the courage to jump in and call. We see you on there in the videos, and just glad to see the community continuing to grow because you are the future of the gaming community. It's a big deal.
Thank you. Enjoy calling and talking to you.
No pressure, Alex.
No.
Thank y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. Bye.
Wow. That was nice.
That was a good show.
Yeah, that was.
Yep. Let's see. I think that is it. I'm going to shut this phone line down.
All right.
Because that was a really good show. I really enjoyed that.
Actually, you know what? It was nice to be on this side of the microphone.
Isn't it?
Instead of being on the computer side and watching it. It was interesting. It was a different perspective.
I think for me, what I love about it is the folks that call in. Because when you folks are calling in and talking to us about what's going on game-wise in your world, it just makes this time fly by.
Yeah, it does. And I was looking like, oh my God, it's another 10 minutes, almost another 15 minutes. It was whizzing by.
Right. I love hearing from you guys on what you got going on. So please continue to do that. Don't ever feel like you call too much. If you become a regular and you do it every week, that's exactly what I'm looking for. I don't mind talking to the same people over and over again. I want to build relationships and community around gaming. This is what I love doing. So please continue to do it. Nick chimes in. He sent a message here. He just finished axe throwing. Figured he'd try to call, but looks like somebody else was already on there. So he wanted to say good night and thanks for that message, Nick. We appreciate you listening.
Yeah, he's a regular.
Thanks for all the callers that called in. I didn't even get to half the stack of the stuff I wanted to talk about.
No, but you did allow me to get to the stuff that I was doing, so which is good.
Which is great. So William, thank you for coming by. You're always welcome to join. We have a third microphone here for that guest. So when Robert's here and I'm here, we always have a third microphone available for anyone who is willing to come visit. So thanks again. I'm Carlos.
And I'm William.
And we're the Beans and Dice Podcast, a podcast about
how we game.
Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Good night, everybody.
Good night.